Welcome to the Explainer. Hey, if you're a wireless technician who's tired of, chasing Wi-Fi ghosts, then you are definitely in the right place. Today, we are diving deep into a professional, systematic way to hunt down and identify what's really causing that Wi-Fi interference.
So, just so you know, this explainer is actually part 3 of a 10-part series made specifically for wireless technicians. It's all based on a super detailed report by RFI detectives. They're part of Virtualization Options LLC. And today, we're really going to zero in on that crucial first step in their whole process, the identify phase.
All right, let's get into it. Here's our game plan. We're going to start with the mission, the detective's mindset. Then, we'll gear up with the right tools, go survey the scene to gather all the clues, learn how to decode the evidence in the report, and finally, we'll talk about what it really takes to master this whole investigation.
Okay, first things first, let's talk about the mindset. If you want to solve today's really complex Wi-Fi problems, you've got to stop just troubleshooting and start investigating. It's all about trading in that guesswork for a solid, methodical process.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. I mean, think about a dense office environment that's just jam-packed with devices. Your gut feeling or some standard checklist, it's just not going to cut it. The way interference works these days, you absolutely have to have a systematic, data-driven approach every single time.
Every great detective needs their toolkit, right? So let's move on and see what you're going to need to crack the case of that bad Wi-Fi.
What's really interesting here is that it's all about a trade-off. Look, for a quick check in a simple environment, a free app might be just fine. But for those complex corporate deployments where everything has to work perfectly, you've got to bring out the professional survey tools. Your choice really just depends on the scale and the complexity of your investigation. All right, we've got our toolkit ready. Now we're heading to the crime scene. And let me tell you, this is the most critical part, gathering solid evidence through a methodical site investigation. So your on-site work is really going to break down into 3 core steps. First up, you'll do a channel analysis to see how the existing Wi-Fi networks are all behaving with each other. Next, you perform a spectrum analysis. That's where you hunt for those non-Wi-Fi culprits. And finally, and this is key, you do the physical correlation, tying all that data back to the real world, the physical space.
And this right here, this shows you the awesome power of spectrum analysis. You are literally making the invisible radio frequency environment totally visible. See those peaks and patterns? Those are the signatures of things like microwaves, cordless phones, maybe even Bluetooth headsets that are just polluting your Wi-Fi channels. This is where you become a real RF detective. You take all that data and you overlay it on a floor plan. This heat map, for instance, instantly shows you where the crime is happening. You can see where the signal is weak or interference is sky high, and it lets you connect that directly with physical objects in the area.
Now, to make sure you don't miss a single clue, the pros use a technique called grid mapping. You just systematically walk the entire space, taking measurements every 10 to 20 feet. Yeah, it's meticulous, I know, but it is the only way to guarantee you have a complete and accurate picture of that whole RF environment.
Okay, so you've finished your survey. You've collected all the data. Now it's time to head back to the lab, open up that case file, and really analyze the interference report to see what the clues are telling you.
Your report is going to highlight a list of the usual suspects. You'll see things like co-channel interference. That's where different networks are basically fighting for the same airspace. You'll spot adjacent channel interference, especially on that crowded 2.4 gigahertz band. And of course, you'll see evidence of all that non-Wi-Fi interference we were just talking about.
Now listen up, because one of the absolute smoking guns in your report is going to be the retransmission rate. If this number is high, it's a direct sign that data packets aren't getting through on the first try. It is a crystal clear indication of poor communication quality and, yep, a major symptom of an interference problem.
So, let's pull all this together. What does it really mean to master this whole process? How do you go from being a simple troubleshooter to a true RF detective? When it comes down to it, mastering this is really a combination of 3 things. First, adopting a methodical process like grid mapping. Second, using the right professional tools for the job. And third, committing to making decisions based on cold, hard data, not just a hunch.
And this is really why this all matters so much. This whole detective-style process, systematically identifying where the interference is coming from, is proven to solve the vast majority of problems you'll ever face out in the field, especially when you pair it with practical fixes. This is how you deliver a wireless network that people can actually rely on.
So, you've surveyed the scene, you've analyzed all the evidence, and you've identified your prime suspects. Well, that leads us to the next logical step in our investigation, doesn't it? And it's the big question we'll be tackling in our next explainer. What do you actually do about it? How do you eliminate the culprits?